So I went from having this adversarial relationship with pain, like I hated my body. Why didn't it just fall in line and do what I needed it to do, to where I got curious about it. And I started asking the pain, what am I supposed to learn? And slowly but surely, I started to find these wounds that were coming up to be healed that were trapped in my body, unresolved trauma, unresolved feelings of doubt and shame and guilt that were just always right there, waiting to jump back in and play those same tapes that always go around in my head. It was rare that I have chronic pain today.
Our guest today is Lindsey Kane Leaverton, and she's here to tell us the secrets of moving through pain, shame, and guilt in her best-selling book, Not Another Self-Help Book. Hello, and welcome to the Write the Book Inside You podcast. Tips, tools, and interviews for coaches and healers like you who want to write a non-fiction book to boost your visibility, clients, and cash flow while making a difference. I'm your host, Carol Westmore, a multi-published author and energy psychology tapping book coach. Now let's jump into today's episode. Welcome, Lindsey.
Thank you, Carol. Welcome to you as well. I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah. So Lindsey, what I love about your book is in a time of AI and churning out a book in a weekend or whatever the latest gimmick is, your book is filled with the personal stories that only you and definitely not AI could write. That's what I teach in my Write the Book Inside You program, that it's not about a how-to book. 20 chapters that ChatGPT can tell you how to do that. It's about your personal story that speaks to people. So before we dive into your story, who is your audience? Who do you find your book has touched the most?
Oh, I love that question. It's not somebody too unlike me. So probably, 30s, 40s, 50s, typically women, usually overwhelmed moms. They don't always have to be moms, but just busy women who feel like they are spinning 1,000 plates and you have to wake up in the morning and figure out, okay, which plate can I drop? Because I'm going to drop a plate or 15, I'm going to drop a ball or 35 balls. How am I going to get through today? And we tend to just go through life like zombies. We're not plugged in. We don't have a lot of self-awareness. That was me. And it tends to be those just kind of badass women who are busy kicking butt, but also just so overwhelmed.
One of the things that I resonate with you and your book is that you understand, which maybe this is what they will learn, these overworked and, underpaid moms, I was going to say, these overwhelmed moms, that the pain, sometimes physical, emotional pain within, is a layer of something that we haven't addressed, of traumas, earlier traumas. Would you say that most of your readers, until they read your book, they're not aware of this, but that you particularly, I believe, were racked with chronic pain, were you not, for many years? And you later...
Yes, ma'am, about 15 years.
Tell us about that and what it was actually a symbol of that you came to realize.
Oh man, there's one of my favorite books. If y'all watching or listening haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. The Body Keeps the Score, which is just, revolutionized my life. I had gone to, I can't even count how many doctors, specialists, tests, 15-year journey. And after so many doctors said, you are in, perfect health. Everything about you is fine. All the tests are negative. You're good. I just remember thinking, but I know I don't feel good. I know that I have this chronic systemic pain all throughout my body. I finally got so desperate that a friend of mine said, look, you've just got to call this guy. His name's John. Call him. He was my last resort. We worked together for about 2 years. He is an extremely gifted healer. And he walked me through becoming aware of my pain. Where was I feeling it in my body? Identifying what that may be trying to tell me. So I went from having this adversarial relationship with pain, like I hated my body. Why didn't it just fall in line and do what I needed it to do, to where I got curious about it. And I started asking the pain, what am I supposed to learn? And slowly but surely, I started to find these wounds that were coming up to be healed that were trapped in my body, unresolved trauma, unresolved feelings of, doubt and shame and guilt that were just always right there, waiting to jump back in and play those same tapes that always go around in my head. It was the beginning of the unfolding of everything that I had been going through and facing. And I can say now, because of the tools that I developed during that time, it's rare that I have chronic pain today. And he walked me through becoming aware of my pain. Where was I feeling it in my body? Identifying what that may be trying to tell me. So I went from having this adversarial relationship with pain, like I hated my body. Why didn't it just fall in line and do what I needed it to do, to where I got curious about it. And I started asking the pain, what am I supposed to learn? And slowly but surely, I started to find these wounds that were coming up to be healed that were trapped in my body, unresolved trauma, unresolved feelings of, doubt and shame and guilt that were just always right there, waiting to jump back in and play those same tapes that always go around in my head. It was the beginning of the unfolding of everything that I had been going through and facing. And I can say now, because of the tools that I developed during that time, it's rare that I have chronic pain today. And I'm not saying it was this, overnight, I have no pain, but it's more rare. And when I do feel, either I get a migraine or neck pain or my neck locks up, I sit and I breathe and I go through that process. Where am I feeling this in my body? Getting more awareness and clarity and learning from it. And it's been revolutionary.
As you know, or may not know, I'm a EFT and matrix reimprinting practitioner. Do you have a tool like that you use, or is it just really the awareness of sitting there and feeling it in your body?
I did the tapping. I experienced the tapping when I did EMDR, which was just very helpful. Yes, for me, reframing the way that I related to certain traumatic events that have happened in my past. But when I'm not having a guided meditation or EMDR, when I'm not in therapy and it's just me, and I'm usually sitting, I try to get grounded. I get still. I'll either meditate kind of before or after, but I ask myself those series of questions and I get really comfortable and I try to feel it fully in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't just think, oh, my head hurts. Like this morning, I woke up with a really intense pain on the side of my head. What I had to do in that moment is, okay, I want to feel all of it fully in my body, almost like clenching your fists so that when you release them, you can feel that temporary release. It never fails that I learned something, even if it's small, sometimes it's huge. That's the gift for me now, is that this book that I started writing 4 years ago, and I turned in all the content before AI even came on board. So yeah, it's all my words, no AI.
Yeah.
It's just this labor of love that started as the gift of pain. I thought that was going to be the title of the book, but that led me into finding 16 chapters where I was able to find a gift in the midst of all that life throws at you, which I know that, I'm preaching to the choir here.
Yeah. But to just go through some of the chapters, the gift of addiction, go through a few of them, 5 of them,
Conflict, heartbreak, loss, tragedy, trauma, prayers, pain, to name a few.
Yeah, exactly. So each of them, you tell your story, or you tell a story, and then you then can see the gift in it. And one of the things I've heard you say is that even in the time you're living in now, where pain and, well, trauma faces you, or challenges, you were recording your book, or you were listening to your book, and you realized it had a message for you that
Yes.
helped you even now to
Yes.
reminder, doesn't it? And that's what I love also about my books. Like, I can read them years later and I think, oh, that's interesting. I'm glad I said that, because what I've always said, and you may agree with me, if you think about your book, you have all this stuff happening to you. You come to write the book, and then to me, it's like putting the toothpaste back into the tube, because you've got to put it in a thing that people can digest, but it's a lot of messy stuff maybe that comprises it. A very key turning point in your life. You were very faith-based in an evangelical home, your faith, and a songwriter, were you? And tell us what was actually going on underneath and what happened that was a big turning point in your life.
Great question. I'll choose one. I write about several of those turning points, but probably the biggest one was growing up in a strong evangelical Christian home, Southern Baptist, very much by the book. If we thought the Bible said one thing, then that was the truth. I believed literally that Jonah got swallowed by a whale, and that God sent this flood, and Noah, and there was a boat, and there were 2 by 2 of the animals. I mean, everything. I believed it hook, line, and sinker. But I had a very real relationship with my higher power, even from a young age. But as I got older, as I started to go through, maturity, it became so clear to me that I was gay. And I admitted to myself, I came out to myself when I was 17. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, I think I'm a lesbian. And where I lived and where I went to school and where I went to church, that was not an option. You could not, have a strong faith and also not be cisgender heterosexual person, get married, have babies, take your kids to church, raise them the way you were raised, then they have babies, and so on and so forth. So I went into the closet. I didn't want anyone to know. I was terrified of someone finding out. I've known since I was little that I was different, but I didn't have the words to describe it until I was 17. Also, when I started playing music, writing songs, and the bigger that my career got, I started touring regionally and then nationally throughout college, leading worship and speaking and teaching at these big Christian conferences that you might see, on TVs or movies. But I just kept getting gayer and gayer. I went into ex-gay therapy. I tried to pray the gay away. I tried anything and everything because I thought it was a sin, because I'd been told my whole life, this type of person, if you are attracted to a member of your same gender, you are destined to live a life of loneliness. And that is the cross you must bear, or God will eventually change you and you can pray the gay away. A lifetime of being in the closet, touring professionally full time. I fell in love with my drummer and my tour manager, who happened to be a female. That really started this road of, okay, I've got to figure out not what I've been told about this. What do I really think about this? How do I feel about it? What does God, or the God of my understanding at the time, think about it? Maybe I've been wrong on some Bible verses, because there are a lot of verses that the church uses as what we call clobber passages, to try to make you see, like, oh, you cannot be gay and love God. You have to choose. Gay people are going to go to hell. You can't give in to sin and all this stuff. So it was a long journey. When I was in college, that's when it hit me. Like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot continue down this road of waking up every day and just feeling like, I guess I'm just screwed up, And it was when I was 21 in college. I was engaged to a wonderful Christian man who loved me. I wanted to be with my best friend, who was a girl. I got to a really dark place. I prayed this crazy prayer even to this day. I write about it in the book. I asked God to take me in my sleep or wake me up straight. I just couldn't do it anymore. Thankfully, that prayer did not get answered in the fact that I woke up I woke up the next morning, still gay, and realized, okay, I need to really get some help here, because it was just killing me.
Up to then,
being in the closet.
You'd suppressed it all inside you.
One person knew, and that was my therapist.
Okay, but otherwise it was completely submerged in you, along with the shame and the pain and the confusion that that you didn't want to live, actually. So it was
a dark time.
And the dark night of the soul. How did I think there was one moment when you were on a stage singing, or at a conference where the people were really hammering, homosexuality or something, or being gay.
Yes.
I think, was that a turning point where you went to your room and you just thought, I can't do this anymore? And what was the moment? Did you go to your parents? How did you actually break through this dark night?
The moment you're talking about was what I thought was going to be my last gig, my last event, because I knew that, things were over, and I'll explain the timeline of that in a second. But there was this speaker, and she got up on stage in front of thousands of people and gave one of the most anti-LGBTQ talks, sermons, whatever you want to call it, that I'd ever heard. And I had to walk up on stage after she was done speaking, and I had to sing. And the war that raged inside of me as I'm singing, almost to co-sign on the bullshit she was spewing, it just broke me. Something inside me broke. It's where my integrity and who I wanted to be as a person and as a human, it broke me. And 3 weeks later, my entire career was over. Had a year and a half of gigs that were canceled, songs pulled from radio. I wasn't famous by any means, but I had some relative success. CDs pulled from stores. That was way old when there were still CDs. But those were, shipped back to me. They were just sitting in my garage forever. Getting through that dark night of the soul, I could not have done it without my faith. That's what's so interesting, because I lost most of my family and friends. I had my dog and I had my faith. And gosh, it's just, I can't believe that I really kind of made it through those times.
Yeah.
But to answer
looking back, would you say that you were guided by your soul, destiny, or what when you look back on it, because it was quite a while ago now, describe what brought you through? You said your faith. How do you just share with us your faith?
Oh my God. I was like, how much time do you have, Carol? No.
Well, before we go into the book writing process, it's just interesting.
Yes. No, I love it.
It's a severe trauma. And
yes, ma'am.
we say in our work, we call it an Uden moment, and that I think that moment on the stage, it's an unexpected, dramatic, isolating, and you have no resources. So
wow,
that's called an Uden moment, and that's what when the trauma fixes. That's how we always think of it. So that's why when we do the work with EFT and matrix reimprinting, we look for that moment. Although it was an ongoing thing, there's one moment when it's like a turning point. And if you can release that, then other things start to topple. So if it's a big Uden moment, we don't try and do it on our own always, because you had no resources, you see. And if you try and do it on your own, you need the person to witness and to support you through understanding what happened, which you said you did get finally for your pain, and perhaps get to work through that trauma.
Yes. I surrounded myself with, people who were supportive, who wanted to show up for me. Community was really important, because I had to kind of rebuild, from scratch. My parents, even though they struggled so much with me coming out, they were there, they were supportive, they loved me, and they were able to hold on to their own traditional beliefs. And I was able to hold on to my more liberal beliefs, and we were able to still be a family, and they were able to show up for me. So community, I found an amazing therapist who was affirming and, wasn't trying to lead me some type of way, just trying to help me find my true self so I could become, this integrated whole person, instead of being fractured by trauma or hiding such an important part of myself. But really, another one of those moments you'd asked earlier, what did the coming out journey look like? We started by coming out to my then partner, at the time, her parents. And they were kind of these liberal hippies. We thought we could tell them first, and then they'll be our support as we continue coming out and telling people. But that was not the case. You ever had something just turn upside down that you did not expect at all? And within the course of about a week, my partner's mom had called my dad at his office, Googled his phone number, and found his number, told him over the phone. So I didn't get to come out to my parents. And then she also called kind of the head of the organization that I was touring with as a worship leader. And so within about 3 weeks, I thought that I had more time to come out, in the way that I wanted to and that I had planned. That was not the case. And I'm grateful, because it needed to happen that way. It needed to be ripped from me in order for me to get the courage to leave and to come out and be fully myself.
Well done, and I'm sure there are a lot of people you help today. You know, hearing your story and in your book, and maybe reaching out to you to say what they're going through. Talking of the book, we're going to fast forward to you writing the book, but there were other things that happened along the way. You went into wealth management, didn't you? I think you got married. You got two children. So just fast forward us through to the point where you decided it's time to write the
And
book.
now for a word from our episode sponsor. Every writer has faced the dreaded writer's block. But what if you had not just one, but 7 ways to shatter it? Introducing Bust Writer's Block Forever, 7 game-changing ways to kiss writer's block goodbye and unleash creative inspiration. Dive deep into transformative processes, the work of Byron Katie, Havening, EFT tapping, the journey, the alter ego effect for writers, internal family systems. And as a special treat, a bonus chapter on collaborating, even dancing with ChatGPT, your new creative catalyst. For those who've been inspired by The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, this book and accompanying video course at bustwritersblock.com will feel like coming home. Dive in at bustwritersblock.com. Now back to today's episode.
So it's beginning of COVID, probably, February, March 2020. And I was sitting right here where I am right now, just meditating, trying to be still. And there was just this clear message. I didn't hear a voice, but it was this clear message. And I knew it was from the universe, source, love, intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And it was like, it's time to write the book, Lindsey. It's time. And I'd had this in my heart and in my head. I journal a ton. I've always just written, but never thinking about writing a book. It was so clear that I couldn't not write it. It was one of those directives that was like, this is your thing. And I know that it's going to be really hard with 3 kids, a newlywed, working, my career is very demanding. You got to figure it out, because this book is ready to be written. And I had no idea what it was going to look like when I started. It wasn't like I opened the laptop to a Word document and just start typing 290,000 words in 3 years. It was messy. It was clunky. I had to escape my family one weekend a quarter so that I could just trap myself at an Airbnb and write for sometimes 10 to 12 hours a day. And once I started, I could not stop. It was like you shook up 30 different champagne bottles, popped them all off, and all of this stuff started coming out. And as I wrote and was vulnerable and authentic and was writing about the stuff I was going through real time, the stuff I'd been through, I started to heal. So the book became the medicine. And that's why, after now it's been 4 years, it's like, I have to share this. I'm not saying, I'm not holding myself out to be some expert. I'm just a normal gal sitting here in Austin, Texas, but I had something in me that I knew had to come out and be shared with whomever will pick up the book, which I have.
Yes. Okay, and how
Right
did that
here.
title come? Not another self-help book. You
Because
what
I
was
love sarcasm.
what was the working title originally, and then how did that change?
That's a great question. So the working title at first was The Gift of Pain, because I thought it was, going to be about my chronic pain journey. And then it morphed into this theme of not everything happens for a reason. I mean, we hear that all the time. Everything happens for a reason, which can make us resent whoever's pulling the strings, if that's how we feel the world works. Sometimes I believe things just happen. Shit just happens. There's not always an answer. You may never find a gift. There may never be a meaning that helps you reconcile whatever happened. So the second working title was Not Everything Happens for a Reason. But there was another book that was titled Everything Happens for a Reason. So it was a little too close. And then I landed on not another self-help book. I loved the double entendre, component of like, oh God, that's all we need is another self-help book.
Yeah.
But it's not like your normal book. I mean, it it has coloring book pages in between every chapter. So before you move on to the next chapter, it allows the reader to sit with whatever they've just read. I love adult coloring books. And then it has a QR code that leads the reader to one of my original songs that aligns with the theme of the chapter. So it's really this multi-medium experience. And I wanted it to be altogether different.
And it is, isn't it? I mean, you
It
can look
is.
at it with pride and say, this is something that came through me almost.
Yes, I still can't believe it. Even my kids, when I opened all the packages of books, it's like, hey, kids, come on, this is so exciting. They're 11. They care about Roblox and whatever they're doing on, their iPad. And I showed it to them. They were like, Mom, wow, that's really cool. Can we see the coloring book pages? I was like, yeah, that's all you care about. That's just, no, you don't care about anything else. Just,
So
just
show
the
us,
coloring
show
book
us one of
pages.
them. So, in the Kindle version, you do get a diagram, don't you? To show us one of the coloring pages. Okay. So that's for you to stop and color.
And I made them, I designed them all because, I didn't want to pay for whatever it's called, the art. And then there's your QR code
Is that a
that leads to one of the
Spotify?
songs.
Where do you store the songs? Because I think you had a Spotify playlist, or is that not it? The QR.
I do that. So that's separate. I also created a Spotify playlist. So if you're the type of person that likes to listen to music while you read, I can't do that because I
I
have
can't.
ADHD. Yeah. But it's a long enough playlist where it will last the whole time you read the book. But that's separate than the QR codes. The QR codes lead to wherever my song happens to be. So one of them's on YouTube, one of them's on Spotify, one of them's on SoundCloud. They're kind of all over the place.
Do you still compose music? You're obviously creative. You've got the writing in you. Does it come into songs? Do you still write, or where are you now in your life, in your work? Can you paint us a picture of the Lindsey we see before us today?
Yes. How do you paint a picture of a shit show? I hope it's okay that I cuss. I cuss in the book too. So yeah, it's a little bit all over the place. I'm the director of wealth management at a boutique financial planning firm here in Austin. And so that's what fills my days. I work with clients and love doing that work. And then when I'm not doing work, I'm a mom. I've got twin kiddos and they're just the love of my life. When I am not sleeping, I love to sit down at the piano. I wrote a song just yesterday. I'm constantly creating, sometimes just writing lyrics, sometimes journaling, sometimes sitting down at the guitar and writing a new melody. So I can't stop creating. And I've had dark times in my life where I didn't sing, I didn't write. I was just like a barren wasteland. So actually last night, when I sat down at the piano, I've been having a very hard couple of months, significantly harder the last few months. And I realized I hadn't sat down at the piano. And there was something so healing about letting whatever is going through my body come through my fingers onto the keys. And I just played. And it was really, really beautiful last night. Piano's green, so you can't go wrong with a green piano.
I love that I would call that self-care, that you're listening to
Yes.
your need to express yourself, to write, to play music, that those are the kind of things that people feel, that the moms that read your book feel they might be too busy to do. There's no time, work and children. But what you're doing is you creating time, and you are a multi-talented person. So you've got
Well, thank you.
well, look, someone who's doing wealth management and can write songs and music. I mean, that to me would be both sides of the brain working.
Oh, yes. I have, for whatever reason, I don't know how it happened, but I feel like I'm equal parts right and left brain. And it works really well for my career because what I'm doing all day are complex, basically financial puzzles.
Yes.
And writing the book was like building a puzzle. Writing a song is like building a puzzle. So basically, I just love puzzles. I love for my mind to be faced with all of this different data and start trying to figure out where does it fit? Where can you put the file in your brain? Because the beauty of that is there's a lot of things that happen and there's no file. And so you're just searching for the file. It's not there. So you're left with, I've never experienced this before. I've never gone through what I'm going through now before. And I'm actively learning new things. And that's why reading the audiobook myself, which will be out in, I think, a month or two, reading that audiobook
when is that?
was,
it's a mid 2024, at least. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. But being able to read those words that I'd written a year before I started recording the audiobook, because the editing process, Carol, took a year. In the 3 years I wrote the book, I wrote 292,000 words, and we had to get it down to 90,000. So you're talking about over 200,000 words gone. That's why it took a year.
Not possibly to fill a second book.
Or a third. Yeah, it was kind of like War and Peace. And
it is a very popular concept today to have rather 3 shorter books than to try to get people to read one fat, huge book. It is our whole society today, the way we read and digest.
We do.
But what you're saying, to get back to reading it, you realize the gold in it for yourself. You know, even now as life continues to throw, what did you say? You said puts dog poo in a bag and lights it on your porch. You had a very unusual analogy in there when to mean that it's not always a straightforward, Pollyanna life, but your book hopefully has got some of the path or some of the understanding for people of how to handle yourself.
You're absolutely right. The best compliment that someone can give me after reading the book is, wow, I will never see this the same way. I will never see loss the same way. I'll never interact with pain the same way. And it really does start to change the way that you view what you're going through, and starting to believe that life is happening for you and not to you. That changed everything for me. And my victim mindset has gotten quieter and quieter. And that's been such a gift.
I think that's a very good point to end on. Is there, where can people get your book, or what would you like to leave the listeners with?
First of all, thank you for having me. I could listen to you talk. I could listen to you talk for 15 straight hours. I love your voice. But thanks for having me. I've loved our conversation. If folks could go to, best way is to go to the website, notanotherselfhelpbook.com, notanotherselfhelpbook.com. And then there's links everywhere. Probably the best place to get it is Amazon. And then sign up for my newsletter.
Not Another Self-Help Book is a newsletter. I think that's the best thing to point people to.
So I have an interview series where I'm interviewing one badass woman every month, and then I release it. So that's on there. I do a song spotlight. I do a gift spotlight, write a little anecdote, a little story. And then I'll list which podcasts I've been on or am going to be on. But usually I just try to, make people laugh a little bit. And I only send one a month, but I think you'll enjoy it. So sign up for the newsletter on the website. I'm on social media. My full name, Lindsey Kane Leaverton. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, etc.
Let's just repeat the one website to do with the book, which is, to say it one more time, because this is a Zoom, video, but also a lot of people are listening without the visuals. So let's just assume they're walking and they hear. Say it again.
And they don't get to see your beautiful hat. Y'all have to watch the video because Carol's got this amazing hat.
Well, I do both. Okay. We know that people are listening and washing up and doing other things and watching videos, but tell us again your website.
Notanotherselfhelpbook.com.
Great. Okay. So we'll send people there. So thanks so much, Lindsey. It's been a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks for joining me on today's podcast. Want a free gift to inspire you further on your book writing adventure? My free checklist, 5 book hook tips to kickstart your book writing journey, will help you get clarity on the key essentials to make your book a winner. Download it at writethebookinsideyou.com/free gift. The links are in the show notes. Until next time, a big virtual hug and keep writing.